Yu-Gi-Oh! In its most basic form is about 3 types of cards: monsters, spells, and traps. But beyond that, you have the subtype of cards. You don't just have normal monsters, you have effect, ritual, all the extra deck types, and a few others. For traps, besides normal, you have continuous and counter. And for spells, there's a whole bunch. But the type that's relevant for this list is the equip spell. The original idea behind them is you're equipping an item to your monster or to your opponents that can buff their stats, give them some sort of immunity, lend them an effect, or debuff or hinder them. As the game has evolved, the things equipped cards could do became more complex, and they sort of became less efficient over other types of cards unless they were either busted or an archetype was based around them, like Mikanko or Noble Knights. So for this video, we want to take a look at some of the weirdest equip spells the game has given us over the years. Various things could make them weird. It can be in their effect, how they've changed, their strange appearance, or simply how they seem inefficient to physically equip. Like, how do you equip someone with the concept of falling down? But we'll save the shtick for the entries. Anyway, here's a bunch of co-hosts. Corgian?
Yes, it's I recovered.
Sam from the Dungeon Dive Bar podcast.
I equip concept.
Professor Oats.
Back by popular demand.
SyzygySolo.
And I'm back by unpopular spite.
And Judgment Meter.
I'm here for the dumb cards. They're usually the funniest.
Now, let's activate the top 10 weirdest equip spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! Number 10, Archfiend Staff of Despair. We're starting off with one that has a pretty cool effect. When equipped, on your turn, you can make all your opponent's monsters on the field lose attack equal to half the attack points of the monster you equipped with this card until the end of the turn. Though if your opponent has effects that summon monsters on your turn after you activate this effect, those monsters will not be affected, so there are ways to get around this card. Still, I like the effect. However, the reason it makes this list is this card is a follow-up to a more famous equip card that was notably changed in English, being Axe of Despair. As we discussed in our Yu-Gi-Oh! Censorship video, Axe of Despair's big design choice was the head of the axe was an actual living head in Japanese, but that was apparently not good for international releases for some reason, so they changed it to this veiny texture that was the same color as the handle. As a result, some of the big references to Axe of Despair are probably lost to international audiences with Staff of Despair. Another missing reference in English is Axe of Despair is supposed to be an Archfiend card like the staff. In Japanese, it's called Demon no Ono, which translates to Demon's Axe, with demon being the term for the Archfiend archetype in Japanese. They probably didn't see it becoming such a major archetype in the future, so they didn't even think to translate it at the time. They later added in a clause that Axe of Despair counts as an Archfiend card in future printings, and even released a special lost art promo of the axe so international audiences could see it in its teal-headed glory. But as mentioned, most people haven't thought about this card since like 2005 Playground Yu-Gi-Oh!, so the fun references in Staff of Despair are likely to go over people's heads. A couple other similarities is the background is the same on both cards, and both can return to the top of the deck if they go to the graveyard, with the staff going back if you pay 1,000 life points, possibly in reference to how the axe raises a monster's attack by 1,000, which was an effect that made you feel like royalty in limited formats in middle school.
And this is a powerful playground effect. In tournaments, no. In playground, yeah.
I also like that they still added the of Despair to the staff's name to keep with the original translation of Axe of Despair, since the staff was just called Demon's Staff in Japanese. So in a way, we get a reference between the cards that's exclusive in English.
I just want to know why the staff is so despaired. Like, I don't think it's the staff that causes the despair. I think it's just a really depressed stick, and I want to know what happened. It looks sad.
It knows it's going to be made into a broken bamboo sword.
You could equip a monster with both Archfiend Staff of Despair and Broken Bamboo Sword and threaten the staff by saying, this is what you'll become if you don't function properly.
I just assumed he was sad because they taped up his mouth. Why did they do that? Doesn't he need to talk and breathe?
I don't want it to breathe. It's got bad breath.
But the head needs to talk, otherwise he can't run his successful coconut selling business.
Oh, I'm sad now.
Hey, I'm back. You want to buy a coconut? I got a weird growth now, but I got coconuts for days. I'm getting out of the coconut game, moving to mango. Don't ask why.
Number 9, Trial of the Princesses. This card is messy and gives you an upgraded monster that isn't good. It was for a duo of monsters I feel were set to be mascots at some point, but Konami just kinda dropped them, only being able to be equipped to White Magician Pikachu or Black Magician Karan. They're rivals with the same stats of 1200 attack and no defense, but opposite effects. Pikachu gains you 400 life points per monster you control during your standby phases, while Karan deals 300 points of damage to your opponent per monster they control. The equip card is literally meant to represent their trial to become a princess in their backstory. When the trial is equipped to either of them, it lets them gain 800 attack points, so they'll have 2000 attack now, and if you destroy a level 5 or higher monster in battle when they're equipped with it, you contribute them to summon their princess form from the deck. For the record, most playable level 5 monsters at the time this card was released had over 2000 attack points, so you'll likely need more cards to boost the girl's attack enough to get this gimmick off. But hey, you're rewarded with something good, right? No. The princesses just have 2000 attack, so their original attack now has the equip card's boost built in, and their life point effect is doubled, so Pikachu gains 800 and Karan inflicts 600. They were mediocre effects to begin with, but now they're glorified mediocre effects. What's even worse is you can only summon the princesses from deck, so if you draw them, you can't summon them off Trial of the Princesses, and now you have a level 4 brick in your hand that you can't summon. Also, Princess Karan's burn effect is halved in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, but regular Karan's isn't, so the princess's burn damage isn't even upgraded there. I'm having my doubts about how good this trial is.
Maybe the bellhop goblin is the level 5 beast they're supposed to fight, but then what are we equipping to them? Like the challenge itself, we are equipping the idea of overcoming adversity?
No, what you are giving them is a bachelor's in law, where they are now able to successfully attempt at a trial.
To summarize, as Oats said, in their princess test, they have to defeat a giant creature of sorts, with the level 5 monster that you have to destroy with the equip card representing that creature. I think the way the effect tells the story is cool, but it's beyond inefficient for no good payoff. Number 8, 2 toads with 1 sting. This equip card got my attention solely because of the artwork, but once I got past that and read the effect, it's definitely unique overall. But still, that artwork nails it a spot on this list, cause look at it! This is hilarious and I can't believe it's real. For context, the Ascending Frog is Treeborn Frog, who's a monster that can revive itself from the graveyard during standby phases. He's doing the same pose from his own card, but instead of heading up towards the heavens, he's heading straight for a fishing hook, and 2 of the frog's support cards, Ronin Toadin and Totally Awesome, are trying with all their might to hold him back from going up since he's heading towards his doom. There are so many things I love about this scene. I like how Treeborn Frog is so used to being revived, he's just mindlessly doing the revival routine, not registering that this is a trick. And the smaller toad is just like, why isn't anything working? His death is inevitable at this point.
I didn't know this card existed. This is amazing.
This is one of those, like, theme cards where it has the pictures and everything, but it just doesn't do anything. I love seeing Totally Awesome, by the way, outside of his artwork. His little oranges on the floor and the 2 frogs are singing a prayer, it would seem. I love Totally Awesome. What a friend. Well, which one's Totally and which one's Awesome? Because there's 2 of them.
We need a video about these frogs. I think they have a lot of personality.
I just realized there's this whole scene, and like, Treeborn Frog is doing the same exact pose as the card. Everyone else is doing like these cool poses and expressions, and Treeborn Frog, that man only has 1 pose. That pose is Froge. Also, there's a lot of text going on, and I'm sorry, every time I try to read it, like, my eyes, oh, here we go.
To go even further, the effect represents the artwork pretty well, where you revive a monster from your opponent's graveyard to their side of the field and equip this card to them, but that monster can't attack or be attacked, and their effects are negated, so you essentially fished them out of the graveyard to do nothing. If your opponent tries to get rid of that monster by using it as material for any extra deck summon, you get to take control of the monster they summoned using it. So it's like you have a line on the revived monster, and you're waiting for your opponent to make a move so you can and reel them into your side of the field. It's a very convoluted way to take control of your opponent's monster, since you're very obviously putting bait on their side of the field. Like they can just never touch the monster and they'll be fine, assuming they read your equip card. Though I do like the concept of a player being like, hey, don't you want to use that monster I just revived for you? There's no ulterior motive. Also, interestingly, it won't take control of a monster that uses the equipped monster for a tribute or ritual summon, so stay winning Monarch and Nephthys players. Number 7, Malevolent Nuzzler. I wanted to get Malevolent Nuzzler on the list since this card is iconic to old school players. It felt like the most powerful, easy to access equip card back in the day. It's just a common card from the third set in the TCG that raises one of your monster's attack by 700. That may sound basic, but the fact that it was easy to obtain when the game was slow, where a standard normal summon had 1600 to 1800 attack points, made a free 700 attack point boost feel massive in a limited format.
Like, we just had Violet Crystal. That's a situational 300 attack boost, and they're like, nah, everyone more than double. Like, they had no idea what power creep was back then.
It makes those monsters up to 2500 attack points, which was equal to the best single tribute monsters at the time. And if you want it back after it goes to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to put it at the top of your deck.
Nuzzler? Aww, that's nice. Who's she nuzzling?
I guess she latches onto a monster and they gain 700 attack points because they like her company.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, the Japanese card's name translates to Demon's Kiss, so maybe she just kisses you for the boost or you take her nuzzle or something.
What's a nuzzle?
I don't know, I'm just saying words now.
There's so many things on here that could be the Nuzzler. Is it a name of the necklace, or the ring, or the other ring, or the other ring, or the mysterious third eye? And what's so malevolent? Why is everyone angry?
Also, no one ever talks about how this card has a counterpart, Horn of Light. It does the same thing but for defense. I never saw anyone use it.
I like the cards with counterparts that are kind of a mirror image, so I would hope instead of Horn of Light, it was Wholesome Nuzzler.
For such a simple effect, you would think it would be hard to find anything odd about it, but this card actually has a distinction from most other cards. It's tied for having the most errata of any card in the game. Errata in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is when the wording of a card is rewritten to make its language more consistent and succinct compared to modern cards, and maybe even change the effect. Nuzzler has been errated 9 times, the most any other card has ever been errated in the game, tied with Polymerization and Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. So why was this card changed so much? Let's take a look. Its original effect read, a monster equipped with this card increases its attack by 700 points. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can pay 500 life points to place it on top of your deck. The first erratum changes it from a magic to a spell card, since spells used to be known as magic cards until they remembered a different TCG. The second rewords how you place it on top of your deck. The third rewords the attack boost grammar. The fourth changes increases to gains attack. The fifth and sixth once again reword the top of the deck effect. The seventh and eighth reword both effects. And the ninth erratum, which is the current card, yet again reworks the structure of the graveyard effect sentence. So overall, there was never a problem with it. It just happened to get reprinted a lot, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Was finding new ways to word cards consistently. It's a good time capsule of how much Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed to make their effects sound more comprehensive over time.
Wait, was Horn of Light errated this many times?
No, it wasn't reprinted as often.
Huh, I guess it's not a true counterpart then.
Number 6, Scroll of Bewitchment. You ever have that card that just makes you irrationally annoyed? Scroll of Bewitchment is that for me. You equip it to a monster, declare an attribute, and the monster becomes that attribute. I can't think of any reason you would waste a deck slot on this. Sure, there are cards that benefit from your monsters being certain attributes when this was released, like if you have a legendary ocean deck you want all your monsters to be water attribute, but there's no reason that would lead you to using this equipped card. You would just play more water monsters or deal with your Spirit Reaper not being water attribute. The only time I've seen this card used in a cool way was by Bastion in Duel Links, who has a deck that equips Scroll of Bewitchment to those element monsters released right before the GX era, which were a series of monsters that get bonus effects when monsters with certain attributes were on the field. He would equip the scroll to change their attributes to one that gives them a buff, and then they get the buff. The end. Neat little trick, but it's still not a good equip card.
So I've been playing dinos, and they got this cool combo where they can make Naturia Beast, but they don't have enough Earth monsters, so you gotta use Reproducus to change the attribute of something, and that way both pieces are Earth and you can make Naturia Beast. That is clearly what this card is made for. This is like really forward thinking.
I could imagine that this card is literally like in real life, you would go up to your monster, like duct tape this scroll of bewitchment to them, and it just says, "Hi, I'm fire."
You guys are not thinking big picture. This is clearly anti-Gozen match tech. You equip it to your opponent and change their attribute.
For context for viewers who don't know, Gozen Match only lets each player have monsters with the same attribute as all other monsters they control, so scroll changing a monster's attribute would force it off the field under Gozen.
Also, if you summon a monster first, and it's the wrong attribute from the next monster you'll summon, the first monster you summon, you attach Scroll of Bewitchment, set it to the second monster's attribute, then you can summon the second monster. There you go. It does work with Gozen Match. We're developing a meta!
We did it, guys. We solved Yu-Gi-Oh!
Also, like a year after this card was released, they made DNA Transplant, which is a continuous trap like DNA Surgery, only it makes every monster on the field a specific attribute, not just one, so Scroll got power crept despite not being powerful to begin with. Number 5. Violet Crystal. There's a group of equip cards released in the first TCG set that I like to call the tutorial equip spells. They're not that good, but they give your monsters a small boost with a simple restriction that shows you that some equip spells only work with certain monsters. All these equip spells give a monster a boost of 300 attack and defense points, but only for the specific type of monster listed, and aesthetically, it fits the theme of something you would expect that type of monster to wield based on the monster type's name, fitting that tutorial description I gave it. Like the warrior gets a sword, the fairy gets a bow and arrow, the beast gets fangs, and the spellcaster gets a spell book. But then there were the equip spells of the bunch that made less sense, like the beast warriors getting the whole freaking moon, which I guess I get because of werewolves, but are these guys just carrying the moon on their back like Atlas when it's equipped? It wasn't like that in the anime. Or the insects getting laser cannons, which was something that Weevil liked. It's cool in the sense of Dr. Evil sharks with laser beams tied to their head, but I don't know why that was their first idea for an equip card for an insect. And then there's Ray's Body Heat, which made some sense for the type it was meant for, but why did they choose this artwork? Like, guess which type of monster this was for based on the artwork alone, and pretend I didn't just display the full card for the last 10 seconds.
Demons.
Demons are called fiends in English, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Is that true?
That is true, but this card actually equips to dinosaurs.
But that guy's not a dino.
Yeah, we all just kind of accepted it. However, the weirdest of these equip spells to me was Violet Crystal, solely due to the problems its name eventually caused. It was the stat booster for zombies, same 300 point boost that all the other types got, but they made a retroactive mistake by calling it Violet Crystal in English. In Japanese, its name translated to Amethyst, named after the gemstone it is, and I don't know the significance of a zombie being powered up by Amethyst, but I'm sure there's a reason behind it. On topic though, Violet Crystal was a fine translation for a while, until the GX era created the Crystal archetype, which includes the Crystal Beasts. As with most archetypes, there could potentially be effects that just work with the archetype name, in this case Crystal, Crystal Beast, or Ultimate Crystal. However, since the Japanese name of Violet Crystal didn't have the equivalent of Crystal in its name, and because we apparently can't have extra cards relevant to archetypes in English compared to Japanese, see Frog the Jam, later re-releases of this card had to add in the clause, "This card is not treated as a crystal card," which looks silly that one of the irrelevant introduction equip cards that's beyond power crept actually had to be edited for this. No idea why they didn't just rename it. Once again, see Frog the Jam.
So what's really funny is it's not a crystal card, which whatever, but even if it was, you could only equip it to a zombie monster. As far as I know, there are no crystal zombie monsters.
Crystal Beast, Great Mammoth of Gold, fine.
But it would be really funny if they do eventually come out with a crystal-based zombie archetype, and you can't search out Violet Crystal despite it being support. I don't know, Crystal Fiends or something comes out, and it's like, well, we can't use this one meaningless equip card even though it's technically in our archetype.
The new archetype comes out. The one thing that will make it tier 0, a 300 attack boost. list?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe it.
Number 4, Vicious Claw. Vicious Claw is a card that's too accurate to its anime appearance, where its effect does a bunch of things that really don't make sense when you put them all together for the real-life card game.
So I have done a lot of research into Vicious Claw for some reason. I think this is the most ridiculous card I've ever seen. Just look at the word salad of this effect. You gain 300 attack. If the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle, put this back in the hand instead. Sure, that sounds like a really old school equip card, but wait, put it back in the hand. Then destroy a monster, except the one that battled the equipped monster, and inflict 300 damage to your opponent. After that, summon an evil token. It's a 25-25 fiend on your opponent's side of the field. So then I was thinking, wait, maybe the evil token means something. Maybe there's a fiend dark level 7 25-25 this card is referencing. And I checked it out. The fiend monsters in this game that are 25-25, Magical Musket Mastermind Zachiel, Frozen Fitzgerald, Despian Quiritus, none of them are level 7. This card just breaks my mind.
So there is a reason behind the token, but it's from a very specific effect in the anime, where the Supreme King uses it with his evil heroes. The first half of the effect goes as the card says: small attack boost, bounces back to the hand for protection, and inflicts the burn damage. Then it summons the evil token to his opponent's field, which he has a specific trap for called Evil Blast. It only activates when a monster is special summoned to the opponent's field, and then it equips to them to eventually deal burn damage, so he had the combo as they always do in the anime. After that, the Supreme King uses Super Polymerization to summon Evil Hero Malicious Fiend, which needs a level 6 or higher fiend monster as one of its materials, matching the evil token, which is a level 7 fiend. And for those who don't know, Super Polymerization can fuse using monsters on your opponent's field, so that's why it's a big deal that it's such a big token. That being said, he could have just put his own fiend in the deck and used regular polymerization, so this felt like a way he could show off his busted card. In the end, Vicious Claw's purpose appears to be activating your 50 other effects to get your evil token for super polymerization of a specific hero card, which is funny since super polymerization is one of the best cards in the real life game, but not for summoning evil heroes.
The wording is strange, the payoff is random, like it didn't seem like they figured out when the sentence was supposed to end, so they just kept going.
I like that it arbitrarily gives you the 300 attack point boost, like it didn't have enough else going on, so it was like, here's a little bit of attack power, just because you deserve it. Number 3, Prevention Star. Prevention Star's activation requirement has always been odd to me. You can only equip it to a monster you control that you switch from attack to defense mode on the turn they were switched, and only the turn they were switched. After this is equipped, you can target one of your opponent's monsters, and that monster cannot change its battle position or attack. Then when the equipped monster is destroyed and Prevention Star is sent to the graveyard as a result, you can banish the monster that you targeted. I kinda get the idea that this item is forcing one of your opponent's monsters not to attack because your own monster can't attack now, but it feels like too many steps just to prevent a monster from attacking. Now if it negated a monster's effect, that feels a bit more worthwhile, but there's just too much going on here.
This card feels like it should be doing something, but it's not really doing anything. And first off, its activation condition is like, after you have had this monster on the field for a turn and have decided to retreat, you can now put this on there, and only then can you stop the opponent's monster from attacking. But what's interesting is that it's targeting another monster with the effect, but equipping to your monster. So it's so weird.
I figured out a way to power this up. If you use Stumbling and then summon something in face-up attack position, goes to defense mode, you can equip it right away, which basically turns it into an equip spell that says the opponent cannot declare an attack. And you know what that is? Flint.
This is another card, though, where I really like the art. Like, this is late 90s, early 2000s anime. It doesn't really look Yu-Gi-Oh to me. I feel like this is more a character I'd see in Samurai Showdown, or Samurai Champloo, or another anime or video game with samurai in the title, and I like that. This card makes me feel nostalgic.
Oh, I like this one.
Is it because you think he's hot?
Yeah, he's attractive. I like that about him.
Do you like anything else about him?
I like that he has purple pants. and shiny gray hair. Oh, he kind of looks like Shaman King. He's like Galaxy Shaman King.
I also don't know what a prevention star is supposed to be. I know it's the thing rotating around the samurai, but I don't know what it's referencing in culture or media. But I'm sure it's something cool, and the comments will probably let me know what it is. Number 2, Omega Goggles. Hey, it's Carly's glasses from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds if they were 10% more terrifying. This card essentially does nothing. It lets you look at a random card in your opponent's hand, but if you do, the monster equipped with it can't attack, and it's just one random card. You don't get to see your opponent's full hand. Maybe this card will tell you if your opponent has the legendary Blue Eyes White Dragon, or maybe you'll just see that they have something like Malevolent Nuzzler and say, oh, this is worthless knowledge. Even if you do see something you could potentially counter against, you have to commit a monster to the board to equip Omega Goggles, so it may be too late by the time you find out. Oh, my opponent has Cyber Dragon? Oh, I've already committed a monster with less than 2100 attack points. And technically, there's another restriction that you can only equip it to a monster you control, in case that comes up.
I think the more frustrating thing about this is I can't use it to troll my opponent by attaching to their monster so they can see my hand.
You know what? You should just be able to show your hand to your opponent. Not like what's in your hand, but like your actual physical hands. And like they're like, I would like to see your hands, and you give them a thumbs up. You're doing great. You're doing great, man.
That's how Oats and I played Munchkin back in the day.
If my opponent was to look into my hand, you know what they'd see?
An eye.
3 double-edged swords.
If they looked into my hand, they would actually somehow see their hand because I have stolen their cards.
At least if you use this turn 1, you don't have to worry about losing your chance to attack. It's interesting how much Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to love effects that let you look at your opponent's hand. However, those cards let you see your opponent's whole hand and take a card away, so much so that they're all banned now for that latter reason. Cards that just let you see your opponent's hand with no other bonuses, like Eye of Truth, never saw play, so Omega Goggles giving you even less knowledge of a random card made it a silly effect, and attaching it to an equipped card so a monster has to be on the field made it even more inefficient. Also, I said early Yu-Gi-Oh! Liked these effects, but this card wasn't even early Yu-Gi-Oh! It came out in 2008, during the 5Ds era. It feels like it should have been pack filler in Metal Raiders, so it arrived outdated. Though one thing I like about this card is in Japanese, it uses the Omega symbol in its name, makes it look slightly cooler. Okay, so I was going to put honorable mentions here, but we sorta accidentally recorded 21 entries when looking through all of our equip options. So to save us from doubling the list right now, maybe we'll do a Volume 2 someday with the rest of that audio. Sorry, Ekbio Drakmord fans, you'll hear our extensive thoughts eventually. Anyway, on to the top pick. For number 1, we went with an entry that's 2 years in the making, an equipped card that baffled us at first, but then gave us ways to be very mischievous with certain playstyles. Number 1, Double-Edged Sword. This card gives your monster a 2000 attack point boost when equipped, but the double-edged aspect of it is both you and your opponent take battle damage that would be inflicted with the monster using it, and if the monster equipped with it inflicts 2000 or more points of damage, the sword goes to the graveyard. This card kinda felt like a joke when it was released in 2020, since it gives you this massive boost that you lose if you do too much damage, and you still have to inflict damage to yourself. It seemed like there were better options out there for equipped cards, like Psychic Blade, which also lets you gain 2000 attack points, but only for paying 2000 life points, and you get to keep it on the field no matter what. However, the sword got our attention when Master Duel came out in early 2022. This card was an ultra rare in that game, the highest rarity available. It was only a basic common card in the TCG and a normal rare in the OCG, so besides the detrimental effect, we were perplexed at why it was so valuable in the game and wanted to crack the code of what might make it secretly good. In fact, we were recording during that conversation. Let's travel back to 2022.
So I was gonna say, it's like OG card design where like, oh my god, we're boosting it by more than 500 attack, we better give it a downside. Mask of Brutality, big downside. And I was like, when was this card printed? Isn't it printed like this year?
This is a very new card.
Yeah, but it's an ultra rare.
Wait, it is?
Why is it an ultra rare? I want to do a stream with this card.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's classic equip card design, but it's not.
I want to take this card and I want to use it with 3 Power of the Guardians. I want to OTK not only myself, but my opponent in the same turn.
It's free money.
Wait, is this Blackwing's Dragon synergy?
No, because Blackwing Dragon only works with effect damage. This is battle damage.
Oh, come on.
You will never get Blackwing Dragon to be useful, no matter how hard you try.
Hi, future me here for a second. Later that same year, they made support that made Blackwing Dragon useful. Okay, back to the flashback.
This card is so fun, and I can't believe they made it an ultra rare.
Now, here's the funny thing. Because this card deals battle damage, you can chain, like, Rainbow Life or Spirit Barrier and take no damage.
This is my new obsession. I'm going to be stuck on this card for, like, several years. Wait, you can do a Toons OTK with it.
Oh my god, please. If you craft double-edged sword, I swear I will disown you.
I'm not crafting one double-edged sword. I'm crafting 3 of them.
If you craft 2, I have to undisown you, so do 4.
A few weeks after that discussion, Corgian decided to try out a double-edged sword OTK deck on stream with Toon monsters since they can attack directly. It took about 2 hours of dueling random opponents, but it was eventually pulled off.
Here we go. Let's take 5,000 damage. We're free. We're in the clear. We did it. Yes! Yahoo! Yippee!
Corgian also had to destroy a bunch of better ultra-rare cards in-game to craft double-edged sword for the stream, which was very funny to see.
What is this? Odd Eyes Raging Dragon? Odd Eyes die in a hole. Yeah, we should get rid of Imperial Order. Dismantle. Die. Naturia Cliff? Die. You're back? No. Destruction. Just doing a little murder. Committing a little death.
However, over a year after that stream in 2023, the perfect archetype for double-edged sword was created, Mikanko. Mikanko are 0-attack monsters whose effects revolve around searching, recycling, and equipping equip spells, and making the opponent take battle damage that they would receive. So if double-edged sword makes you receive battle damage too, it just gets stacked up on the opponent when a Mikanko is using it. And Corgian now plays Mikanko, so the sword dream has been fulfilled.
Double-edged sword is the best equipped spell that has ever been designed. Now wait, it gets better. So let's say that instead you attach it to a 0 monster, like a monster with 0 attack. Now it has 2,000 attack. So something that previously couldn't do damage now does. Now let's say that you had a card like Mikanko Ohime Mikanko that can re-equip something from the graveyard. Well, then if you had something like Mikanko Maeowashi Dori, you could have a level 3 Mikanko attack into the opponent while equipped with double-edged sword. Maeowashi Dori activates, it then bounces the level 3 back to hand. Double-edged sword goes to graveyard. You then have Ohime go and attach the double-edged sword to her, and then she attacks. That is 8,000 damage. Wow. Only smart girls know how to use good equipped spells. So, double-edged sword, goated.
So for confusing us, intriguing us, and eventually leading us to success, double-edged sword gets the top spot as the weirdest Yu-Gi-Oh! Equip spell. Now, what did you think? Were all these equip spells oddities in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy, or would you happily equip them to your monster without a second thought? And are there any we forgot? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.